Princess Bride, directed by Rob Reiner in 1987 and based on a novel of the same name written by William Goldman in 1973, is a cult classic comedic fantasy adventure film full of wonderfully whimsical characters, hugely over-the-top action, and whip-smart jokes that still hold up over 30 years later. It follows the love story of Buttercup and Wesley, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We are here to discuss the sword fighting. Specifically, the fascinating way stage combat is used in the film to demonstrate the character's ideals and motivations, focusing on the most well-known character and arguably the main protagonist, Inigo Montoya. The film uses the art of stage combat to show its character's motivations and traits, all while maintaining its fun and whimsical tone. It shows off Inigo's core character traits in how he chooses to fight. Most importantly, the differences in his actions between the Cliffs of Insanity fight and his battle for revenge with the villainous Count Duncan. Starting with Inigo versus Wesley. Before we discuss this wonderfully exaggerated masterpiece of a fight scene, we should discuss the events leading up to it. Inigo is the best swordsman in the country, and that isn't an exaggeration. In the books, they had to create a whole other level just to describe how good he is. He is not a master, he is a wizard when it comes to sword fighting. He's just that good. In fact, he's so good he's even fighting with his left hand out of sheer boredom. So we would expect an easy win when he's told to kill the man in black so his colleagues can escape. But instead we see the first core part of his character, honor. Instead of taking his easy advantage to the high ground, he helps his enemy reach the top of the cliffs and allows him to catch his breath before the fight begins. It is also important to mention that the tone for this fight is light and jovial. The film is, after all, a comedy, and the filmmaker's intentions are above all to entertain their audience. This all-important tone is at the core of the film and of this fight, so let's talk about it. Part 2. Inigo vs. Wesley. The fight begins. Both opponents skilled in swordsmanship. Inigo allows the man in black to attack first, testing his skills, then advances. The fight escalates until the combatants are fighting across difficult terrain, throwing swords and doing acrobatics, until the man in black finally gains the upper hand and disarms Inigo. The fight, while entertaining, could not exactly be called realistic. A normal sword fight would typically contain perhaps 2 to 3 moves at most, because you're aiming to kill your opponent as fast as possible. The Cliffs of Insanity fight contains over 230 individual moves, not to mention the hugely impractical acrobatics. But this is not the point. The point is to be entertaining and fun, helped by the fact that the characters are in on the joke. It's whimsical and impractical and hugely successful in its aims. It demonstrates Inigo's honor and his incredible skill in sword fighting, all while maintaining this playful tone. But honor is not the only core aspect of his character. He is also motivated by the prospect of revenge, most clearly seen in the second major sword fight of the film. Part 3. Inigo vs. Reuben. This is the more emotionally charged fight of the film. The events have been leading up to this moment where Inigo is about to avenge the death of his father, when he finally finds the Count and prepares for a fight to the death. The two stand, ready to kill, but instead of an honorable battle, Count runs, and Inigo is forced to give chase. Immediately, the tone is different. All the whimsical banter is gone. This is not a fun fight. This is a fight to the death. And then Inigo is injured. The Count fights like a coward, but Inigo rises and continues anyway, motivated by the need for vengeance. Every blow, unlike in the Cliffs of Insanity fight, is intended to kill. He builds an intensity, all while repeating his signature motivation, until he wins, repaying the wounds he received earlier in the fight before ending it, and Rugen's life, fulfilling his character's arc. This fight is just as important for demonstrating character. It shows Inigo as still honorable, but his main motivation here is not the need for revenge, as might initially be assumed, but instead the love he has for his father. This is what ultimately gives him the strength to win the duel. This second fight of the film between Inigo and Ruben is far more emotionally charged, shown through the change in tone, location, and the way Patinkin approaches the character. This duel is another clear example of the filmmakers using stage combat to show the character's motivations, namely that Inigo is motivated by love and revenge. To conclude, the film is a masterclass in using stage combat to demonstrate Inigo's core character traits and motivations: honor, revenge, and love. It uses tone to show the differences between the emotional importance of both major fights, and most importantly is a fun and entertaining experience exploring themes of love, honor, triumph in such a unique way that the only word I can think to describe it is quite simply inconceivable.